Welcome back to AM Northwest. It was the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in U.S. history. And now, 30 years later, the three-part docuseries Oklahoma City Bombing, One Day in America, tells the unflinching account of that tragic day by those who lived through it.
The Murrah building was a melting pot. It was a cross-section of America. That morning, I sat down at my desk. Then everything changed.
Smoke, debris, part of the building has been blown away. We're getting reports of numerous fatalities.
Hard to believe we are looking at our own backyard.
I lay there, upside down in my chair, waiting to die.
Joining us to share more, we welcome the director of Oklahoma City Bombing, One Day in America, Ceri Isfryn, along with survivor Amy Downs. Good morning to the two of you.
Morning.
Let me start with you, Amy. First of all, I'm so glad you survived this, but what an incredible experience. Tell me why you wanted to take part in this docuseries.
I think it's important for the lessons that can be learned to be shared with now a generation of people who were not even alive at the time that this bombing occurred. I think it's just important to make sure that they understand what happened, what caused it, and how we came together in the face of this evil thing to unite to get through this together as a community.
Absolutely. Ceri, for you to take on this series, it had to be monumental. I mean, 168 people died. This was a tragedy beyond all in the U.S. Tell me about why it was important for you to take this on.
It felt like a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
Partly because, as part of this series, we only speak to people who had first-hand accounts of what happened that day. So, it's not a responsibility I take lightly when you're asking people to sit there and talk to you, about probably the worst day of their life. And so, I was motivated to make sure we got it right and actually really heard people when they were telling us what they thought the lessons could be learned from this day, that I then reflected that in the series. And, as Amy said, I think that's the thing that surprised me during these interviews actually was, the notion of hope came up in one way or another with everyone we spoke to. And I wanted to make sure that we reflected that sense, even though we are, of course, talking about a horrific day, that we also made clear in the series that spirit of resilience that I think is, you can still really feel it there in Oklahoma City. I'd never been there before. And, you can really feel it all around today when you're there.
Amy, was it hard for you to relive this experience and talk about the time it basically woke up to rubble? You were under feet of rubble.
It is difficult to go back and really unpack the details of the day, but they were so compassionate. Ceri was just made it as easy as possible, if that's a thing, to talk about it and to really unpack everything. So I was very thankful for them. They would even offer counseling if we needed it after these long interview days. And so they were very thoughtful in how they handled the approach.
You were working at the credit union there at the federal building in Oklahoma City. And you became CEO. You stayed on after.
Yes. So I have worked for the credit union 36 years and started out as a teller and then became CEO. And actually, just as of today, I am retiring.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. You also, I understand, stayed close to the rescuers.
Yes, I'm so grateful to all of these men who risked their lives to get me out. They're amazing.
And Ceri, what did you learn and what was challenging in putting this docuseries together?
I think it was that sense of pressure, I suppose, in making sure we got it right and that the people that we interviewed felt like we'd been, careful and true to their stories, whilst also, of course, there were so many people there that day. It was really trying to to get that sense across to me as well, that, you know, this was a federal building. And to be honest, I probably thought if you'd have said federal building to me, I would have had certain ideas of who might be working there. But the more I learned about it, you know, there was a credit union there was a daycare there. This really was a, you know, a cross section of America in a way, an ordinary, you know, an ordinary people going to work, doing extraordinary things in the end of the day. And so, you know, the challenge for me really was just to make sure that I captured what was already there and just translate that onto camera. And, you know, interviewing somebody like Amy and the others who participated, you know, it really was putting their trust in us to do that. It really, you know, it really has been an honor.
I also learned too from you that a lot of the police didn't really get McVeigh. He wasn't who they expected.
I think, you know, in the second episode, we tell the story and we interview the highway patrol trooper, Charlie Hanger, who, you know, by chance had pulled over McVeigh that day. And I think one of the things that also struck me, particularly when talking to some of the investigators, is, you know, they all knew people in that building. I think somebody in the series said everybody in Oklahoma knew somebody or was connected somehow to somebody in the building.
Right.
So even these, you know, hardened FBI investigators, this was personal to them on a whole different level. So I think, you know, when you see the sense of relief when they realize that actually they've got the guy, I feel like that was on so many levels for them. It was personal. They knew people who passed in that building. And so you really do get that sense of relief when they realize they have got the right guy.
What also too was interesting about McVeigh is that he was a veteran, a Bronze Star.
It was important for us to tell viewers enough about McVeigh, but without it overshadowing, you know, the experiences of the people who lived through this. You know, you have to inform in order for people to understand the experiences of those who lived through it.
Absolutely. And I know you didn't want it to be a history lesson, but really to talk about the hope that was there. And Amy, you experienced, despite all that you went through, you experienced the hope and the goodness in people.
Yes, truly, truly. You know, just the last day I was in the hospital, 8 days after the bombing, I remember looking out of the window and seeing in the middle of the day all of the cars driving with their headlights on. And of course, that's when we had to turn them on purpose, you know. And people were doing that just as a symbol of love and hope and support. And, you know, that I just remember that spirit of how people came together to help.
Yes. Thank you both so much. It's an excellent series. Thank you. We want to tell everyone Oklahoma City Bombing, One Day in America premieres tonight at 8 o'clock on National Geographic. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.